Have you ever thought that one day there will be a system in the market that can authenticate and identify you with your DNA? Well, today DASiF have done it. So I'm going to talk a bit about why did we use DNA for our system. Through our researches and studies, we have found that each individual has a unique DNA profile, and this unique DNA profile stays the same in every single cell throughout the human's body. We also found that an individual's DNA profile remains the same throughout the person's lifetime. It doesn't matter how old the person is, the DNA profile will remain the same. DASiF stands for DNA Authentication System Incorporate Fingerprint. So I'm going to talk a bit more about the introduction for DNA. DNA exists in every living organism on Earth. And the differences in DNA between humans and humans is actually only a share of 0.1%. DNA is defined by 4 chemical bases, which are adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. Besides, DNA is arranged in nucleotide, forming a double helix spiral shape. So what is DASiF? DASiF is a proprietary device that we have created that possesses the ability to acquire, read, and compress DNA data. DASiF currently only works with Android smartphones, and in order to use our service, a user is required to physically set up a DNA profile inside our center located in Petaling Jaya. In order to use DASiF system, the user will need to build a data repository in our center. So the processes are included as follows. First, the user will need to have their blood samples collected by our center. Then, the DNA data will be recorded into our system, and immediately it will compare to 10,000 other human DNA that we have collected from all around the world. This process is extremely crucial and important because it compares to 10,000 other human DNAs from all around the world to finally find the most unique and distinctive piece of DNA strings that can be acquired, and then we can successfully shrink the DNA data from the size of 3,700 megabytes into just 3.12 megabytes. So first, the user will need to have their 15 milliliter of blood drawn, and then 1 millimeter of anticoagulant is added into the mixture. Next, we add our proprietary enzyme to the solution to separate white blood cells from platelets and red blood cells. Finally, the white blood cells that contains our DNA information in the form of nucleotide sequences will be extracted and readed and recorded into our system. Well, to measure the data, the smartphone application will need to fetch the data for this particular person all the way from the center, and then compare the data that is collected by our DASiF device. If it matches, it means that the user is authenticated. So this is a biometric analysis for DASiF, where we have a very high rank in universality, an extremely high rank in distinctiveness, a very high rank in permanence, but a relatively low rank in collectability. This is because that the user will need to set up their DNA profile inside our center specifically in order to use our system. So this is how our device works. First, the user will need to log in with their fingerprint, and then the fingerprint will go through a standard fingerprint verification process. Next, our DASiF application will need to go through a DNA authentication part where it works with the DASiF device. This is a part where the user will need to poke a little small hole on his fingertip, squeeze enough blood to be injected into the blood strip, and have the blood strip inserted into the DASiF device to be read and collect the data, the DNA data from it. Finally, the DASiF application will fetch the data from the center and compare with the data that exists locally inside the DASiF device. If it matches, it means that the user is authenticated. Our next steps are targeting to have set up more branches in Johor, Melaka, and Pahang by the year of 2021. And we also will having we'll be having our iOS application rolling out at the Q4 of 2019. We are going to actively participating in various events, including MyMedX 2020 and also Cybersecurity Malaysia ACE 2020. I am the marketing lead for DASiF, and thank you for listening to my presentation. For more inquiries, you can reach me through my phone number.